The echoing stains, some stains don't just mark, they bleed your secrets, and when they spread, your lies drip into form. Nora Cade woke to the seep at 2:39 a.m., a wet, inky rasp breaking the silence of her riverside attic studio. The studio, a creaking loft perched above a crumbling mill in Vermont, was her creative sanctuary, cluttered with easels, paint tubes, and tattered scripts for her YouTube channel, Stains of Dread, where she spun fictional thrillers and probed haunted marks. For 270,000 subscribers, she lit a candle, its flame trembling across the slanted beams, and saw it. A stain, dark and pulsing, spreading across her canvas like a wound. It hadn't been there when she'd collapsed after editing a video about cursed paintings. The attic was locked, the skylight sealed, the river's murmur faint below. Nora's heart pounded as she approached, the stain twisting into a sigil that hissed like damp ink. It whispered a mystery she'd buried. "Nora, you betrayed him." She laughed, a brittle reflex against the fear pooling in her chest. But the sound was drowned by the seep. She was a storyteller, her channel built on crafting dread, not succumbing to it. Yet this was too vivid, too personal. Her phone buzzed on the paint-splattered table, a notification from no sender. "Paint it now." The air grew heavy, thick with a scent like mildew and something acrid, like blood. Nora wasn't reckless. She'd filmed in haunted mills, narrated tales of forbidden stains for her series Bleeding Nightmares. But this was intimate, the stain too alive, its edges crawling across the canvas like veins. The sigil pulsed, the stain forming a brooch, silver and etched with a raven pattern, shimmering in the canvas's weave. The whisper named it, "You broke his oath." Nora's stomach churned. The brooch was familiar. Her friend Elias Thorne had worn one like it, a token from their art school pact to always share their creations. Elias had died 4 years ago in a river flood Nora had survived. They'd been filming a high-risk shoot for her channel, Elias warning about the rising waters, Nora pushing for a dramatic scene under the storm. The river surged and Nora escaped, telling rescuers she'd tried to save Elias, but she'd fled, too scared to wade back into the current. For him, the whisper sharpened, Elias's voice now low and accusing. "You stole my flow." Nora's laptop flared, playing footage she hadn't shot. The riverbank, Elias drowning, his brooch glinting, a shadow stirring in the waves. The stain spread, and the brooch appeared on the table, its raven glowing, warm as a pulse. Her phone flickered, showing a live feed of the attic, filmed from an impossible angle above, her face pale, the stain glowing like a bruise. She looked up. No camera, just warped rafters. The feed shifted, showing Elias behind her, gray and waterlogged, his brooch gleaming. Nora spun, but the attic was empty, the whisper in the stain, "Wear it." Her hands trembled, guilt surging, like a flood. She hadn't just survived, she'd lied, claiming Elias ignored her warnings, hiding her ambition. She'd built Stains of Dread on stories that erased his vision, profiting from his death as her subscriber count soared. The stain widened, naming her sins. Nora laughing on the bank, Elias's screams swallowed by the river. She grabbed turpentine and scrubbed the canvas, the sigil fading, but it bled back, darker, the brooch glowing brighter, the whisper louder. "You gave him to them." A figure dripped in the shadows, its form blurred, its body leaking ink. The attic shook, the beams groaning, a door forming where her easel stood, its frame etched with ravens. It wasn't in the attic's layout, wasn't real. Nora clutched, The brooch, its metal searing her palm, and the door swung open, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. The whisper roared, "Find him." She didn't want to go. Every instinct screamed to run, but the brooch pulsed, the stain's glow searing her mind. She grabbed her flashlight, its beam trembling, and stepped onto the stairs, the door slamming shut. The staircase was stone, its walls carved with ravens flickering with the brooch's light. The air was cold, smelling of water and blood like the river's depths. The flashlight caught Elias's face in the walls, his eyes accusing, his brooch glowing. Nora's chest ached, tears spilling. She hadn't meant to let Elias die, hadn't meant to lie, but the truth was worse. She'd craved fame. Elias's caution a burden she'd shed. The stairs spiraled deeper, the walls closing in, the air growing heavier. She stumbled, the flashlight skittering across the stone, its beam catching carvings of their art school days. Nora and Elias in the studio sketching storyboards, laughing. Over cheap coffee, their brooches glinting in sync. The memory stung, a reminder of the pact she'd broken, the trust she'd traded for views. The stairs ended at a chamber, vast and shadowed, its ceiling lost in darkness. At its center stood a plinth, the brooch resting on it glowing brighter, the stain snaking across the floor. Elias's voice echoed, "You traded me." Nora approached, her legs heavy, the whisper pounding in her skull. She reached for the brooch and the chamber shook, the walls morphing into the riverbank, its waters roaring, mud choking the air. The flashlight died, the brooch's glow the only light. The figure emerged, not Elias but Nora herself, her face pale, her body dripping the same inky stain. "You gave me to them," the figure said, its voice her own, layered with something ancient, ravenous. Nora backed away, the brooch burning, naming her sins, abandoning Elias, stealing his art, running from guilt. A memory surged. The pact, Nora and Elias vowing to share their creations, sealed with the brooch. Nora had broken it, whispering to the dark she'd trade anything for a viral hit. The river closed in, the figure's hands cold, pulling Nora into the stain. The brooch glowed, its raven rewriting her life, her channel erased, her name forgotten, her attic gone. She fought, her screams drowned by the whisper, but the stain was endless. She woke in the riverbank's ruins, dawn breaking over shattered reeds. Her attic was gone, her phone blank, the brooch cold around her neck, the raven etched on her skin. Footprints, small and muddy, led into the fog. Nora followed and found a shard of canvas half buried, its stain etching her face, glowing with guilt. A whisper followed her own voice. "You're theirs." Elias's voice lingered inside her, a stain she'd never erase. Morning came, and her studio was empty, her digital footprint wiped. The police found a burn mark in the ruins, shaped like a raven. Locals whispered of a woman in the fog wearing a brooch, waiting for someone to paint it. Nora's neighbor heard dripping at night, a stain humming in an empty loft. Somewhere, in a place of water and ink, she stands, the brooch around her neck, her stain spreading, bleeding her failures. Her own figure watches, dripping, its smile eternal, its voice a constant hum. The worst part, the thing that keeps her trapped, is the truth she'll never know. The figure wasn't Elias's, it was Nora's, stained by her lies, a debt she'd never repay. Would you paint it? Comment yes or no and tag a friend who'd face the stain.